Hello, darling. You found the Velvet Slasher podcast, where the art of horror lives. Here we build our own little world around the beauty of set design, makeup, and the delicious horror tropes we know and love. I am your hostess in heels, and tonight we are just pawns in the hopeless, horrible machine of the film Hereditary. A movie so well constructed, you don't even realize you've been trapped inside it. Hereditary is often described as a cult movie on generational trauma and grief. But the film itself screams at us that it is about something far more existential. It isn't chaotic like some demonic cult movies. It's choreographed. It tells you the lesson from the first frame. The Graham family are just toys in a dollhouse, being moved by a hand they cannot stop. And that presence forces us to ask the question at the heart of Hereditary. Who is really arranging the pieces of our lives? Do we really have free will? Or is something older than us, something unseen, laying out our fate? Let's set the scene together. The miniature is lit. Figures are frozen in time. And a family sits, trapped in a story someone else is writing. From the outside, the Graham family look ordinary. Annie, the artistic mother, Steve, the calm psychologist father, Charlie, the quiet doll-making daughter, and Peter, the teenage son who wants to escape. We meet them in mourning. Annie's mother, Ellen, has died. It seems like it should be a tragic time, but we quickly learn there isn't grief here. There is only an inherited curse. The love between the family is lukewarm, almost rehearsed when it isn't blatantly angry. Annie pours what is left of her emotion into art, crafting meticulous miniature dioramas of her tragic life. Annie's life has always been this gallery of loss. Her father starved himself due to psychosis. Her brother took his own life, claiming their mother was trying to put people inside of him. And now we start to see she was. When Charlie, the young daughter, dies in one of the most shocking and grotesque scenes of the film, the family's fragile life breaks apart. Peter collapses, drowning in his own guilt. Steve watches as everything around him spirals into madness. And Annie's grief possesses her every waking moment. And that is when the veil lifts. Annie discovers her mother was the head of a cult devoted to summoning a demon king. Every charm, every photo, every symbol in their home begins to make sense. They were never choosing their life. They were being arranged. Each member is picked off by design until the house becomes an altar, and Peter becomes the vessel for the demon king. His body claimed, his life erased. The film ends where it began, in a miniature world lit from within. And now we understand. This was about the illusion of choice. The Graham's fate was sealed before they were even born. And that is why I chose this film for tonight's episode. Hereditary reminds us that and even the most familiar places, our homes, our families. Forces can shape our lives in ways we will never see or understand. One of the recurring scenes in the film shows Peter in his high school English class listening to lectures on Sophocles' The Trachonia, a Greek tragedy about Heracles and his wife, whose fate is said to be inevitable. They are said to be pawns in this hopeless, horrible machine. And this line could describe the Grahams perfectly, and it echoes through the film. No matter what choices they make, the outcome is already written. Ari Aster, the writer and director of Hereditary, shows us constantly that the family could never completely escape their fate. The cult orchestrating the ritual watches them constantly, invading their most private moments to trap them in a web where every choice leads them closer to destiny. In one scene, we see an unknown hand slip a flyer for a seance into their mailbox. When the family doesn't attend, the cult finds another way to draw Annie in, ensuring the ritual continues. Even the miniatures Annie makes are another chilling reminder of control and inevitability. Each tiny room, each carefully arranged figure emphasizes that they are not just being observed, they are being orchestrated, and the audience feels a similar sense of entrapment. This sense of being watched and manipulated throughout the film reminds me of Roman Polanski's Rosemary's Baby in a lot of ways. On the surface, people around you seem kind, helpful, even ordinary, but they are the ones that can harbor hidden agendas. Aster expands on this in Hereditary, showing us that true horror can be more than just blood spatter, but can be quiet and unsettling. Apart from the plotline, nothing captures that sense of dread like the art underneath the horror. Hereditary is masterful in its visual storytelling, from the camera work and set design to the pacing. Each scene is painfully crafted to tell us the story in layers. One of the ways Aster managed to keep the tone of the film so consistent was by writing the script and shot list himself. Before any locations were scouted, he already knew exactly what he wanted the film to feel like. Instead of scouting for the perfect house, the team built their own. Massive sound stages in Utah were transformed into the Grahams' home that allowed walls and ceilings to be removed. This gave the production team freedom to create those incredible overhead and through-wall shots that make us feel like voyeurs looking into a dollhouse. That dollhouse effect isn't just based on set design. The way the camera is positioned and the way the characters are framed tell us everything about the control and manipulation of the story. If you look closely at the scenes with Annie and Joan, you'll see subtle visual lines drawn between them, almost dividing them into two opposing worlds. Joan knows something Annie doesn't yet understand, and the camera reinforces that distance long before the story reveals it. The house is a character within itself. Those beautiful, lingering exterior shots, the mountain backdrop, the emptiness of the forest surrounding the home, all create an atmosphere of total isolation. It's as if this family exists outside of our world, solely alive for the purpose of resurrecting the Demon King. Even the props deepen that sense of unease. The miniatures have been well discussed since the film released, and I believe the reason they capture so much attention is due to the love they were built with. Each time a soundstage was set designer Grace Young worked with artist Steve Newburn, who created each miniature to ensure it perfectly aligned to the sets. Beyond the miniatures, the film is filled with unsettling practical effects. Prosthetic heads, bodies, and even the gruesome prosthetic neck used in the scene where Annie decapitates herself with piano wire. The sound design there is excruciating. The slow, wet grind of the wire against flesh. It's one of those moments I couldn't even listen to comfortably. The feeling of discomfort follows us through the film until the very end, when those chilling woodwinds play as Peter is crowned king. The score of the film was created by Colin Stetson, who was chosen intentionally by director Aster. The music and sound are designed to unsettle us and mirror the tragedy playing out before our eyes. It's this attention to detail, with everything from choosing the composer to being present during set construction, that make Ari Aster stand out as a modern horror director. Hereditary was meticulously designed to make you feel trapped inside its inevitable fate. And that sense of destiny, that feeling of it ending written long before the film begins, brings us to our first delicious horror trope. The Grahams, our doomed family, and Ellen, our monster mom, or grandma in this case. Hereditary doesn't just use our beloved horror tropes and archetypes, it weaponizes them. We've seen monster moms before. Carrie, Psycho, Friday the 13th, the others, even 1987's Flowers in the Attic. But Ellen's influence is something different. She doesn't simply destroy her family. She ensnares them, even from beyond the grave. Through ritual and devotion, she traps her bloodline into the summoning of her beloved demon king, sacrificing everyone and everything for the promise of power and demonic favor. It's an inherited curse, one that dooms the Grahams before they take their first breath. Their free will is stripped away, replaced by the will of something ancient and holy. Annie was born for one purpose, to have a son the cult will one day claim. Charlie was born only to be replaced almost instantly by that demon, a fact confirmed by Ari Aster himself. And because it takes a village to damn a family, we see another favorite horror trope. Everyone is out to get you. Much like Rosemary's Baby, Hereditary traps its characters in a world where every face could hide devotion to the sinister. Classmates, friends, neighbors, Even the grieving lady at group therapy are all silent disciples of Ellen's cult. But unlike in Rosemary's Baby, the Grahams aren't betrayed because they are never in control. Ellen sees her daughter and grandchildren as pawns in this ritual, only vessels to be sacrificed. And this is how our last trope comes into play. While it isn't immediately obvious, from the moment the film begins, there is a demon possession taking place, subtly, patiently. As director Ari Aster confirms, from the moment Charlie was born, she was immediately replaced by the Demon King, her body and mind belonging to him. It explains the bird-like quirks, the vacant stares, the quiet disconnect from the human world, the unsettling cluck that becomes the demon's calling card, an echo that flutters like a trapped bird. Normally, we see demons become more powerful inside their vessels, but according to the cult's scriptures, the demon requires a strong, young male body to reach full power. And so trapped in Charlie's body, it moves through life confused, diminished, waiting. I still remember the first time I watched Hereditary in theaters. I walked out to my car in silence. You know, the silence when your mind is still somewhere inside the film. And it hit me all at once. The line about Annie's brother, that their mother was trying to put people inside of him. And of course, we learn later she actually was. And Joan, the cult woman who lures Annie, likely had done the same thing to her own son and grandson. There is so much backstory that we learn casually throughout the film that creeps up on us after we stop watching. It's just a reminder that we're watching a story with an inevitable ending. No matter what our characters do, they are doomed. This lack of free will, this constant sense of being hunted by fate, is what the film does best. The cinematography, the set design, the props, the music, they all underscore this message. The Grahams are not in control. They live in a dollhouse with someone else picking them up and putting them where they are supposed to go. The film's pacing also reads like a Greek tragedy. In the first 40 minutes, we've already been to 2 funerals and are emotionally invested in a family that will fall apart. There is very little breathing room as the story twists and turns constantly, with the cult bringing in new elements to complete their ritual. It's truly some of the best pacing in a film in modern horror in Western cinema. And each character has some depth, backstory, even if we don't see it. Steve may not seem that interesting, but he's a multidimensional character. A dad, a husband, juggling grief, responsibility, trying to remind his son to sign up for SAT prep while hiding the decimation of his mother-in-law's grave from his grieving wife that he believes is slipping into madness. If there's one place the film falters, it's minor. While I found the final act to be fitting for the movie's tone, it can be seen as visually and emotionally extreme, with its shocking decapitation and heads on an altar scenes. Hereditary came out when people wanted what was called elevated horror, more cerebral and artistic, and it fit perfectly into that landscape. But at the end, it reminded us that it was still a horror movie, and I love that. And that is why Hereditary gets 4 out of 5 slashes. It stayed true to horror while carving out a narrative uniquely its own. It gave us cerebral art while still allowing us to escape into horror. It asked deeper questions about family, history, free will, and fate, while reminding us that life is messy and complex. It stays with you long after the credits roll. And that is what is haunting me this week. The thought that maybe we're all sitting in a dollhouse someone else designed. How much free will do we really have? How much of our fate is written before we take our first breath? Is there a way to change our fate? Or are we just hopeless pawns in this horrible machine? And yet, even knowing what the answers might be, I'll keep choosing how the pieces fall when I can, and letting the rest arrange themselves. Hereditary reminds us that we can't control everything about our lives, but the journey, this wild, crazy journey, is ours to live. So thank you for choosing to spend a little of your wild lifetime with me. Don't forget to subscribe so we can keep crawling into the art of horror together. And until next time, call your grandma and ask if she's in a cult. Bye, darling.